Hello Aries, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus, and welcome to your reading. So Aries, today we're going to go over your energy as well as your person's energy. We're going to see how the both of you are currently viewing this relationship and how you guys feel about it and what actions you guys plan on taking each other's direction and are moving forward. So with all that being said, Aries, let's get started. How does Aries currently view this relationship? All right, Aries. So we do have the Seven of Swords, we do have the Eight of Swords, and then we also have the Judgment card out here. For some of you, you could be dealing with an Aquarius, possibly a Gemini, maybe even a Scorpio. It doesn't necessarily have to be the case, but in regards to how you're currently viewing this relationship, with the Seven of Swords to the Eight of Swords coming out here, that's kind of telling me that you're being haunted by something that you did in the past, okay? Whatever it is that you're being haunted by, it has a lot to do with like a decision. Okay, sorry. It has a lot to do with a decision that you essentially made in the past, and it could have been like in the recent past, but let's look at the Judgment card. Tell me more about Judgment. Okay. We have the Page of Wands to the Page of Swords, and then we also have the Queen of Swords. It kind of looks like initially at the time you thought you were making like the right decision, but I see you kind of questioning whether or not you actually did make the right decision. Because there's people like around you that are kind of like making you feel like, well, you shouldn't have done that, Aries. Like, you shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I just kind of feel like you made a decision, and at the time when you made the decision, you felt like you were making the right decision. And now you got people in your ear like, well, no, Aries, like you made the wrong decision. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you know, you decided to leave a marriage or relationship, and you got people up in your ear telling you, oh my God, you made the worst decision you could have ever made in your life by leaving this person. Like, it has that type of feel to it, where there are people making you question this decision that you chose to essentially make. That you chose to essentially make. Or not that, just don't mind me. I feel like the coffee's essentially wearing off, and I feel like my words are just not coming out the way that I wanted to, but they're just causing you to question the decision that you initially made at the time. Because it looks like you've already been made this decision, right? To like leave this marriage, leave this relationship. And now it just kind of looks like people are making you think, believe, and feel like, yeah, you made the wrong decision. You shouldn't have done that, you know? It appears to me that this dynamic between you and this person, it truly was affecting you mentally speaking. So you could have found yourself, you know, building with somebody that you didn't necessarily trust. You could have found yourself building with, you know, somebody that you thought was out to get you and didn't have your best interests at heart, causing you to feel like you were losing your mind within your marriage and a relationship with this person. You decided to essentially call it quits for your sanity. Which could explain why at the time you felt like, yeah, you were making the right decision by removing yourself from this person that you clearly did not trust. But then you got people all up in your Kool-Aid, you know, trying to tell you, oh, no, you made the wrong decision. You made the wrong decision. Okay, well, how does this person currently view this relationship? Okay, we got the Seven of Wands, we got the Seven of Pentacles, and then we also have the Emperor. This person might be slightly older than you. This person that you decided to, you know, sever ties with, they might be older than you. But yeah, okay. So in regards to how this person's currently viewing this relationship with you, it's like this person's forcing themselves to not continue to put up a fight when it comes on to this dynamic here between the two of you. It's like they're deciding to not continue to essentially put up a fight. In other words, if back then they were constantly putting up a fight to keep you in their life, they're forcing themselves to not do that. They're forcing themselves to not do that. But if it's one thing that I will say is that I feel like this person was truly invested, you know, when it came down to in this dynamic that they, you know, once upon a time had with you. I am, you know, getting that. Let's look at the Seven of Wands. This person, you know, listen, as much as this person wants to come in and fight to keep you in their life, as much as this person wants to come in and fix or repair things here with you, they feel like they really, really shouldn't. You know, like their whole MO is, well, what's the point? You know, what's the point of me putting up a fight? You know, what's the point of me being the good guy? What's the point? What's the point? What's the point? Like I am getting that from them. So, like, for example, like, let's just say, you know, that this person was the good guy when they were married to you in a relationship with you, but you constantly made them think and believe that they weren't. You know what I mean? It's like, that's why they're just like, well, what's the point of me being the good guy? You know, what's the point? What's the point? You know, like, for example, like as far as them putting up a fight to keep you in this dynamic that they share with you, you know, in their life, like they could be looking at that like, well, what's the point of me fighting, you know, to keep them, you know, to keep Aries in my life is, you know, if all they do is push me away, what's the point? What's the point? What's the point? Okay. How does Aries currently feel? Okay. So we do, nope, I'm not going to take this one. We do have the Empress. We do have the Six of Swords. We also have the Seven of Cups to the Knight of Cups. Okay. True pair situation between you and this person. We do have the Emperor to the Empress out here. So you guys are very compatible to one another, you know, to say the least. But it just kind of looks like prior to these people coming along and like making you think, believe, and feel like you made a terrible, you know, decision by essentially leaving them, you know, prior to all of this occurring. It just kind of looks like, you know, you were very determined, nonetheless, to move forward and move on with your life. You find yourself more at peace, especially mentally speaking. You find yourself more at peace. I am definitely getting that. You just find yourself overall in a much better place spiritually, mentally, as well as emotionally now that this individual is no longer a part of your life. So yeah, it kind of looks like once you decided to call it quits between you and this person, you know, your intentions were to move forward and move on with your life. And now, boom, you got these people, you know, trying to make you think, believe, and feel like you made a terrible decision by walking away from this person. And now you find yourself, you know, second guessing yourself. Like, damn, did I make the right decision by walking away from this person? Was I really wrong about them? How does this person currently feel? Okay. Now, we have the Wheel of Fortune. We do have the Three of Wands. And then we also have the... Don't take offense to what I'm about to say. I'm just going to tell you exactly how it came to my brain. In regards to how this person currently feels, they do feel like you were like the best / worst thing that could have ever happened to them. Let me explain. Okay. Yeah, let me explain. If we get rid of, you know, this theory that you have that they're out to get me, they don't have my best interests at heart, I don't trust them, they're this, they're that. Like if we get rid of all of that, right? All of that. You know, this is somebody who made you really, really happy. And, you know, I feel like you're somebody who truly made this person extremely happy, you know, hence why they, you know, feel like this was like the best like thing that could have ever happened to them. If we get rid of all the negativity, they feel like, yeah, like this is like the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Meeting Aries was like the best thing that could have ever happened to me. But because you thought the way that you thought about this person and you were looking at them like, you know, they were the bad guy and that they were out to get you and made the relationship very toxic and very, you know, unhealthy and chaotic and, you know, dysfunctional. So that's why they feel like, like this is like the worst thing that could ever happen to me. So yeah, they do kind of look at you like you're like the best / worst thing that could have ever happened to them. Okay. Yeah, basically. Tell me more about the Three of Wands. You know, as much as this person wants to have a very healthy and stable, you know, relationship with you and experiences happily ever after with you, they just don't know how that is ever going to freaking happen between the two of you if you're going to forever think that they're out to get you and, you know, they don't have, you know, your best interests at heart, you know, things of that nature. Okay. Fair enough. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. What actions will Aries take towards this person or moving forward? So we do have the Queen of Pentacles, we do have the Three of Pentacles, and then we also have the Justice card. Okay. So going back to what we've been kind of like discussing, Aries, as far as like you second guessing this decision that you chose to essentially make, as far as severing ties with this individual is concerned, there's a part of you that feels like, damn, maybe I did make a mistake. But then there's that part of you that's like, but why do I feel so much better now that this person's not in my life? Like, it's kind of making me feel like I made the right judgment call here, you know? Before I open my mouth, I do want to see what actions they plan on taking in your direction and are moving forward. What actions will this person take? Let's just get this person out the way. What actions will this person take towards Aries or moving forward? Okay, so we have the Page of Swords. We do have the Nine of Cups. And then we also have the Moon. Ew. This, I'm getting like a, I wonder if this person's like a drinker or something. Like, I just see this person indulging in something, whatever it is that they're indulging in. Whatever it is that this person's indulging in, though, I want to say alcohol, to be honest. Like, this person could very well be drinking excessively, okay? You know, due to everything that's going on here between the two of you. And I'm not saying all this to like make you feel bad, like, oh, look, Aries, now they're turning into like an alcoholic because you left them. I'm not saying it because of that or anything. It's like they're trying to escape, you know? So they're using something to escape, whatever it is that they're trying to escape. So yeah, they could be drinking, you know, excessively to escape their physical reality. You know what I mean? Yeah, like they're indulging in something to escape. And I feel like it does have a lot to do with what's going on here. But oh damn, between the two of you, we have the King and the Queen of Pentacles out here. True pair situation yet again between you and this person. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be honest. I do feel like this entire, don't take this the wrong way or anything like that, which I don't think that you would, but I do feel like they currently find themselves in a kind of like a shitty shit. Yeah, like I feel like this person does kind of find themselves in a shitty situation here. Yeah, because here's the thing. As much as this person loves you and cares about you and is committed and devoted to you, you don't seem to think so anyway. So, you know, then there's that. And it's like, as much as they look at you like, oh my God, like, this is like the best thing that could ever happen to me. It's like, yeah, that's great. But it's like, you still think the way that you think about the person to the right of me. You see what I mean? So it's like, they're in a shitty situation, you know? They're in a shitty situation. Imagine if the roles were reversed, Aries, right? And here you are falling madly in love with someone, and you know all you want to do is build towards a happily ever after with them, but they don't trust you, and they go as far as to break up with you because they don't trust you. Not that you did anything wrong, but they just don't fucking trust you. So then there's just that, you know what I mean? And then you end up losing the love of your life off of some shit you didn't do and had no intentions of doing. Like, they find themselves in a shitty situation. I'm gonna be honest. Like, that's a shitty situation to be in. And if the roles were reversed, you would find that to be a very shitty situation as well. I'm gonna be honest. The reason why you feel like you made the right decision is because you quote unquote don't have this threat around anymore. Because you looked at them like, you know, like they posed a massive threat to you, when in all actuality they didn't. You just seem to think that they did. Okay? And I know it doesn't make anything better, because it kind of looks like you already had people in your life kind of like making you think, believe, and feel like, yo, like you made the wrong decision, you know, by leaving this man or woman. But I just have to go based off of what I'm seeing, Aries. I can't really agree with this narrative that you create in your mind about this person, especially if I don't have any sort of cards to like back it up. You know what I mean? Because then I would be lying to you and then telling you like, yeah, they're a real piece of ish, even though they're not, you know? Like, I can't sit here and say that they are, here to manipulate you, gaslight you, play you, betray you, to see if I don't have the cards to insinuate that that's their intentions. I can't say that that was their intentions towards you when I don't have any cards that are insinuating that that was ever their intentions and or the case. Now, before we continue, let me put my phone on the charger 1 second. Okay, so yeah, we're back. So yeah, that's basically why you find yourself feeling better. The threat is no longer around. You know what I mean? So now that you guys are not together, you don't gotta worry about this person anymore because y'all ain't together. You know what I mean? You don't gotta worry if this person's doing X, Y, Z because it don't matter. Y'all are not together. You know what I mean? Um, so that's why you find yourself, more at peace mentally, spiritually, emotionally, versus when you were with this person, you kind of found yourself, kind of going through it mentally, spiritually, emotionally, because in your head, this is somebody who poses a massive threat to you in whatever way you think they do, even though technically speaking they don't, but that's just what you think. You see what I mean? I'm gonna be honest, Aries. I'm gonna be honest, okay? And this is not like a judgmental thing. It just is what it is. But with the Seven of Swords to the Eight of Swords, another way of looking at this could definitely represent, somebody who has a guilty conscience. Let me explain. I'm not saying that you did anything while you were with this person. You could have done something in a prior relationship. Like you could have cheated on, someone that you were essentially with in the past. And you might have, like this massive fear that, they're going to turn around and cheat on you because you turned around and you cheated on like, you know, the person that you were dealing with prior to essentially meeting them. You know what I mean? And you might think that, karma's gonna freaking strike at any given moment. They're gonna turn around and cheat on you like you did to said person. Like for some of you, that could be what's happening here. Not saying that that's what's happening, but it could be what's happening here where you think that, because of, the stuff that you've done in the past, it's just going to come back and bite you in the ass, and they're going to be the one, to essentially make you pay for everything that you've essentially put other people through, in the past. Here's one thing that I will say about, karma. Karma, if fucking karma had like a zodiac sign attached to her, okay? I call karma a woman, but that's just me, okay? Hands down, karma is like a combo of like scorpionic energy and Aquarian energy, like in one, in my opinion. So with that being said, okay, karma never really strikes in the ways you think it's going to. It never does, because karma it doesn't ever want you to see her coming, okay? Never. So with that being said, the way you think karma is going to essentially strike or catch up to you is not going to be in the ways you think, okay? Karma likes to catch people off guard, like a Scorpio, for example. That's what I'm saying. Scorpio. Scorpios don't like, their enemies to essentially see them coming. They just don't. That's just how they are. You know what I mean? So karma is very much so like that. So the ways that you think, I guess, karma is going to essentially play out in your life is not going to play out the way that you think it's going to essentially play out. Is basically what I'm getting. Now, could this have a lot to do with like... Could this have a lot to do with like something that someone else has essentially put you through, and now you're over here thinking, well, this one over here is going to turn around and possibly do me the same way said person did? Yeah, I don't see that happening. I just don't see that happening. I think that you have to learn how to essentially separate the fact that, for one, they're not your ex, okay? They're not your ex, okay? They don't think the way your ex thinks. They don't move the way that your ex moves. They're not your ex. This is a whole nother individual that we're talking about here. It's a whole nother individual that we're talking about here. So you have to learn how to separate the two. Stop thinking this person's like your ex, in other words, because they're not like your ex. They're nothing like your ex. You know what I mean? But if this does have a lot to do with things that you personally have done in your past that you're not proud of, that you're ashamed of, and now you're worried, what if karma, bites me in the ass? What if they turn around and do me the same way I've done other people, and things of that nature? I just don't see you. I just don't see you going through what you've put other people through, if you have put other people through, you know, certain things or whatever. I just don't see you going through that with them per se. You know, you listen, at the end of the day, you know, I'm a firm believer that, you know, all the good that we do in this life will eventually return back to us, and all the bad that we do in our lives will eventually, you know, come back to us, primarily to like teach us a valuable lesson, and you know, the importance of like, you know, being a good person, learning from our mistakes, learning from our you know, our fuck ups and poor decisions. It is what it is. We're all fucking imperfect people, Aries, you know what I mean? Like, I fucked up, you fucked up, we've all fucked up. It is what it is. Like, it is what it is, you know what I mean? And yes, in the end, we're all gonna have to essentially pay. But it's just to teach us, you know what I mean? It's just to teach us a lesson, to not make the same mistakes again, to not fuck up again, to not make the poor decisions that we made again. That's it, you know what I mean? That's it. Now, with all of that being said, I feel like you've learned. That's my thing too. It's like, I feel like you've learned your lesson. I feel like you've paid off your karma debt. I feel like you've learned your lesson already. So with that being said, there's nothing to essentially fear here. You know what I mean? When it comes on to this particular person. And that's something that I think that you should essentially find, you know, some you know, comfort in. You know, for example, let's just say that you did cheat on somebody, like from your past, for example. You know, this could very well be you paying, you know, your karma right now, where you constantly find yourself having zero peace of mind because you constantly think that this person's over here cheating on you, even though they're not, but you constantly find yourself thinking that they're cheating on you. You know, from sun up to freaking sundown. This could be you paying, you know, for the stuff that you've essentially put other people through by not having any sort of peace of mind within your relationship with this person. You know, that's definitely a possibility, because karma never really plays out the way that we think is going to essentially play out. And I feel like you definitely paid off your karma debt. So there's nothing to essentially worry about in reference to this person cheating on you or betraying you or deceiving you. All right. If that is what you're going through. All right. So that is what I have for you. Hopefully the reading helped. Hopefully it resonated. And I will see you guys in your next reading. Bye.